So Mud and the Matthew McConaughey continues. I mean, it is funny to think that, only a couple of years ago, he was the man who leant against things on bus adverts for movies and had become sort of, well, I would say laughing stock would suggest that those rom-coms were funny, but they often weren't. And he was, what he did was he turned up and he had bad hair and he took his shirt off and nobody took him seriously. And then suddenly he kind of reinvented himself with films like Killer Joe and with Magic Mike and now Mud, which I'm sure you've seen the posters all over the place with people saying, great Matthew McConaughey performance. I mean, he has now become complete, somebody who is thought of as, taking on difficult roles and doing them really well, and a proper thespian, and good for him. So this is written and directed by Jeff Nichols, who made Shotgun Stories and Take Shelter, both of which I liked, actually, both of which were sort of very heavy with, with atmosphere, which you could smell the environment. This is set in the Arkansas Delta, on the river where the houseboats are slowly being taken away. Two boys go out to a deserted island in the Mississippi where they find up in a tree a boat that has been placed there by a storm, by a flood that has been left there. And it is actually quite an astonishing. McConaughey's character kept saying, that's really something, isn't it? And they want to use the boat as a sort of tree house. When they get there, however, they find that somebody else is already living in it. Turns out to be the character played by Matthew McConaughey, Mud, who is a strange, aimless drifter who appears to be on the run. He needs stuff from them. They want the boat from him. They strike up an uneasy friendship. Here's a clip.
I was going to try to run a trot line this afternoon, see where that got me. Green beans never taste so good.
Why don't you have that pistol?
Protection. Y'all don't need to be afraid of me. I got two ways to protect myself out here, this shirt and this pistol. And there are fierce powers at work in the world, boys. Good, evil, poor luck, best luck. As men, we gotta take advantage where we can. Y'all coming?
It's often the case with radio clips that you have to struggle to find a clip that actually sums up the film. But in a way, that clip does it perfectly because it sort of tells you all the things you need to know. Think about he's protected by his shirt. He has this sort of lucky charm that hasn't been that lucky for him. He talks about, men having to do the things that men have to do. And one of the subjects of the film, which is slightly troubling, this is definitely a boy's own tale. It is a story about boys and men and, boys becoming men. And one of the recurrent themes in it is this sort of worry about encounters with women and worries about encounters with snakes and being bitten by either of them. And in other hands, that could have been more problematic than it is. Essentially, what happens is that the two boys, one of them, his mum and dad are breaking up, and as a result of this, they're going to lose the houseboat. He decides to help Matthew McConaughey's character because Matthew McConaughey says he's waiting on the island because he needs to be reunited with his love, this woman Juniper, who he loves, played by Reese Witherspoon. And because the young boy is seeing a couple falling apart, he thinks that this is some kind of, ideal love, and therefore he should do everything he can to help it. Meanwhile, the other character, the other young boy, doesn't know his parents, but he's being looked after by his uncle, played by Michael Shannon, who, of course, worked with the director before. So the whole film is about these sort of, families falling apart and boys and men worrying about, duplicity and all that sort of stuff. And that is, it's an area which sometimes is problematic, other times, works better. The stuff that works really for the movie is, firstly, Matthew McConaughey is great. I mean, it's a very good bit of casting. He has got a really terrific voice, and he inhabits the role really well. But those two kids are just Ty Sheridan and Jacob Laughlin. Interestingly enough, in the case of Jacob Laughlin, he's got this sort of buzz cut, which has made a lot of people go, okay, fine. The tone the film that this is similar to in tone is Stand By Me, with the Young River Phoenix. And there is a bit of that in the sense of, remember in Stand By Me, they walk out onto the railway. It's actually inspired by a real life thing that happened in Stephen King's, past. They walk out because they've been told if you go down here, you'll find a dead body. If you go down and into this area, it's like it's a voyage of discovery. So there is some of that. There's also some of Whistle Down the Wind in it, with that kind of that archetypal idea about you come across this strange drifter who's actually got this kind of criminal past and you sort of believe him to be almost messianic and magical, and all that's going on there. But the kids are absolutely brilliant. Plus, the thing which really gives it its edge is that it has an extraordinary sense of place. I mean, you can smell the water, you can feel the prickly heat. You're sort of dazzled by the sun and the way in which the sun, dapples and confounds and illuminates in this very profoundly cinematic way. So half of it is that you're just being seduced by the the sheer cinematography of the entire experience, the mise en scène, as the sort of film critics would call it. The other thing that's working is just because you believe in those boys, you believe in the characters, you believe in their sort of in their turmoils. You can kind of see where the narrative's going, but that doesn't matter because it's not about that. It's more about the atmosphere. It's more about the moment. It's more about those tiny little details that make you think, okay, like Swallows and Amazons. If Swallows and Amazons is the version, we got, so I'm not buying that at all. You believe these boys' lives, you believe the environment they're in, you believe the way in which the story unfolds. And it's largely the performances and the atmosphere of the place. As I said, the narrative itself it's a boys' narrative. There is no two ways about it. I think that it may well leave some of its female viewers rather cold. But it is a very interesting story.